Today's reading is The Onceler from the Sexypedia Wiki. Warning: the creator of the source material is known to be controversial. The fact that this character is present on the wiki does not mean that any member of the staff, the creator of this wiki page, nor any editors or the creator of this video condone the creator's actions. This also applies to any company or creative associated with the character, as well as any prominent fan who contributed to the fanon discussed on this page. Reason: Dr. Seuss has been known to have written and drawn racist content. The Onceler is the main protagonist as well as the main antagonist of the book The Lorax by Dr. Seuss, and the deuteragonist as well as the central antagonist of the 2012 movie of the same name. He became one of the most infamous sexy men of all time after the 2012 movie made him a twink in a suit. In the context of the Onceler fandom, the character of the same name from the 1972 film is a separate entity. His class is Apollyon, his aliases include Oncey by his mother, the Greedler, and the OG Sexy Man, and his source is the Lorax 2012. Basic information. In the context of the Lorax story, the Onceler is an old hermit. However, there is an extended flashback where he is a young man. In the book, he is simply a pair of green-gloved arms, but in the movie, he is a tall, slim, white boy with black bangs and the sweet, sweet voice of Ed Helms. He starts a business making weird clothes things out of a fictional tree called the Truffula Tree. During a sequence in which he sings the now infamous song How Bad Can I Be, his business explodes and he ends up driving the Truffula Tree species to extinction, and greatly polluting the area. But more importantly, he undergoes a personality change where he becomes greedy and vain, and dons a green suit that enhances his slim, twink-like figure. This green Onceler is referred to as the Greedler. No one could have foreseen the incredible thirst the movie version of the Onceler wrought. A more detailed description of this character can be found on the Dr. Seuss wiki. Archetypes. Capitalist. Onceler was supposed to be a metaphor for the destructive capabilities of capitalism. As such, he is a businessman who destroys the environment for his own personal gain. Duality. Originally, the Onceler is portrayed as a young entrepreneur trying to carve out his place in the world. He has a modest demeanor and doesn't originally plan on chopping down all trees. However, during and after the How Bad Can I Be sequence and his outfit change, he is much more corrupt and cares less about morality and more about making money. He is vain and uses his financial power to crush others under his heel. Pale twink / thin. Look at him. Bonus points for emo bangs. Power. The Onceler is a rare example of a character fitting under the power archetype who doesn't have any supernatural power or notable physical or intellectual power. His power comes from his financial influence and how he uses it to utterly destroy the ecosystem. Which is a bad thing, but it affects his demeanor and people thirst after it. Quotable catchphrases.
How bad can I be? How bad could I possibly be?
From How Bad Can I Be? Suit guy / well-dressed. The Greedler absolutely exemplifies this trope. Just look at him. Theme song. How Bad Can I Be? This Is the Place, and Biggering. Fanon tropes. DILF / GILF. A common theory surrounding the movie is that the Onceler is Ted's grandfather. Fanon splintering / Oncelerization. Since there was no suitable shipping partner for the Onceler in the Lorax story itself, fans started shipping him with himself. Dubbed Oncest, this version of the ship was between pre-How Bad Can I Be Onceler or Oncey and post-How Bad Can I Be Onceler or the Greedler. Their personality differences were exaggerated to make them seem a little more like different people, and the Greedler would occasionally be drawn with slight monster features like sharp teeth. There were also many AU Oncelers, all RP / Ask blogs on Tumblr, which were shipped together. So many that there is an entire wiki just for cataloging different Oncelers. There's a separate wiki for Thneedville / Thornville High, the high school AU for the Onceler Ask blogs. It was eventually de-Oncelerized and made into its own fandom, hence the unique wiki. Occasionally they shipped him with the Lorax too. Needless to say, there is no canon confirmation about the monster's actual sexual orientation either way. Monster features. Fans just loved giving the Greedler fangs or sharp teeth to make him look both more evil and sexier in their fan art. Fanon. The Onceler is one of only 3 known Apollyon-class sexy men. Several Tiamat-class sexy men have surpassed his peak unironic X-Men popularity, especially because of larger modern fandoms on Twitter and TikTok. But the Onceler is considered Apollyon because of his enduring legacy as perhaps the first major sexy man from a truly bizarre source. The deranged fever of 2012 internet culture around this dude from an Illumination adaptation of a Dr. Seuss book. He's a platonic ideal of a sexy man, and people tend to remember his popularity more than the movie itself. A list of Onceler Ask blogs can be found on the list of Ask blogs on the Onceler wiki. History. Creation. The Onceler fandom was created out of perceived necessity. When the Lorax reboot came out in 2012, it was the height of the need to have 2 conventionally attractive white men to ship together, regardless of how much they interacted. Unfortunately for fans of the film, the options were Ted Wiggins, a child, the Onceler, an adult twink, the Onceler again, but elderly this time, the Lorax, not human, and Aloysius Hare, an adult, but not conventionally attractive. Rather than deal with shipping together any of these options, the fanbase opted to think of the Onceler in his younger, gray-clothes form as a separate entity to the green-suited form of himself, dubbed the Greedler. This was made easier by the somewhat rushed character development when the Onceler's personality changed in the film. The stark contrast between the two, with only a single musical number to develop that change, made the two feel more like separate characters. Incest, as it was later dubbed, began taking a hold starting with the fan art of the Greedler corrupting the Onceler into evil, as a stand-in for the lack of character development. Canonverse Askblog formation. The Onceler fandom itself did not revolve primarily around fan art and fanfic, but rather around role-playing Askblogs on Tumblr. One of the earliest and most popular Onceler Askblogs was the Swag Onceler or Swagler, a green-suited Onceler. Another popular early Onceler was the Steampunk Onceler, Steamler, and his creation, Greedlerbot, created by the artist Spurbox. Steam and Greedlerbot were an easy entry point for many fandom members, as it was easier to imagine the two as separate entities when the corresponding Greedler was a robot. Other Askblogs included the Oneler, a cannibal Onceler created when Tumblr user Owlapin misspelled Onceler while saving a Tumblr URL, and the Bitter Onceler, both of whom were Aftermath Oncelers. It should be noted that Canonverse, as it is used here, does not refer to the canon continuity of the movie. It simply refers to the original role-playing universe the Onceler fandom takes place in. The term is used here as a way to distinguish these Onceler characters from their AU counterparts in the following sections. Some Onceler Askblogs were Lorax characters aside from the Onceler, such as Norma Wiggins, Ted Wiggins' grandmother, or characters from entirely different media, such as Jack Frost from Rise of the Guardians. They are still considered Onceler Askblogs as they were specifically part of the Onceler fandom and went through the same AUs and changes. Oncelers are typically referred to by the first part of their name, example, Swag from Swagler, regardless of AU. Onceler Askblogs fell into several categories, some of which were not literal Oncelers. Onesies, true Oncelers in the initial young, gray-clothed state, typically depicted as being physically smaller and very hopeful. Greedlers, green-suited Oncelers, Oncelers in their green suit form. These were typically depicted taller, stronger, with sharp teeth, and as being ruthless or cruel. Aftermath Oncelers. These Oncelers refer to the Greedler after the final trufflery falls, and he shuts himself away from the world. These Oncelers tend to be darker in content, and many dealt with much heavier themes. Old Oncelers. Oncelers in their aged state after the establishment of the city in Sneedville in Ted Wiggins' time. 1972 Oncelers. Oncelers are referencing the 1972 film, where the Onceler is a representation of faceless corporate greed and is therefore depicted as a pair of green-gloved arms, his face always either out of frame or obscured by cigar smoke. This term primarily refers to 72ler, though a few others do exist. Other characters. Characters from the 2012 Lorax film that were not initially Oncelers, such as Norma Wiggins, Audrey, or Pipsqueak. Crossover Oncelers. Characters initially from other media, but heavily involved in the fandom, role-playing alongside and engaging with the Onceler Askblogs. Notable examples include Marvel's Loki, Rise of the Guardians' Jack Frost, and Homestuck's Dave Strider. These were generally reimagined to be actual Oncelers or related characters in the Lorax universe. Personifications. Oncelers personifying concepts or objects. Camp Weehawken and Camp Deehawken. Camp Weehawken was the first AU for the fandom, originally started in early July of 2012 when Tumblr user Pinkcake's Black Coffee, note the current URL is unknown and possibly deactivated, the link is archived, created two childhood summer camp themed designs for Swag in one, based on an in-character interaction the two had. The summer camp was named Camp Weehawken, referencing a line from the 1971 book The Lorax, which reads, "Take the road to North Niche, turn left at Weehawken, sharp right at South Stitch." In the context of the Onceler fandom AU, North Niche became the section of the camp for female campers, and South Stitch was the section for male campers. An archive/organization account for the AU can be found on the Sexypedia Wiki. The AU archive has official cabin listings every summer, letting you know which blogs are participating, and has existed every year from 2012 to 2019, continuing post-deoncerization. After its creation, the popularity of Camp Weehawken skyrocketed, with many other Askblogs contributing, both as counselors and campers, and even some older camp staff members such as cooks. The average age for the campers in the AU was around 12, but some were as young as 8, and most counselors were in their late teens. It is generally accepted that all AUs take place in the same timeline, and that the characters just age as they went through them, ending in Sneedville Ground Zero with the exception of Camp Deehawken, which is unique to the de-oncerized timeline and may be canon to some characters. Sneedville High, a high school AU, was the second AU to appear in the Onceler fandom, starting not long after Camp Weehawken. Most Askblogs had entirely separate blogs for this AU, allowing them to be significantly more separated from the source material. The campers had in-depth backstories, and their personas were often thought out carefully to reflect how their adult canon-verse selves might actually act when they were younger. As Sneedsville High progressed, characters aged and eventually graduated. This was the most popular AU and had many characters that existed solely in it without any other forms in the canonverse, such as Mr. Ogilvy, a teacher at Sneedville High. Most Ask blogs in this AU had URLs directly relating to both their age and character, such as Class Cannibal for Onceler, Teenage Swagger for Swaggler, and Too Spooky Teen for Spooky Entree. The Sneedville High fandom still exists today under the name Thornville, see demonsterization. Truffle of Flu / Sneedville Ground Zero. Sneedville Ground Zero was a zombie AU started by the artist and moderator Zombie Scully, now deactivated. The first post about the initial concept can be found archived on the Sexypedia Wiki. The virus in this zombie AU was the truffle flu, which was started accidentally when Entree, Canonverse link, genetically modified truffle trees to have different colors. The fruit of modified plants were ingested by animals who passed it to humans, starting the virus. The AU had a complex plotline and generally accepted canon, revolving primarily around Entree, AU link, Swag, deactivated archive link, 1. Bitter, deactivated after his infection and subsequent death, archived link, Dave Strider, and Rocky. Over time, many characters in the AU died, which was a large factor in the AU ending, alongside the primary mods for the AU moving on. The wiki covering this AU can be found here, but with just most of its information about Camp Entree. Demonsterization. As the Onceler fandom developed, many athlogs developed lives and personalities of their own, especially in the Thuneville High AU. As time went on, these blogs were given real names, families, and some were changed in appearance or ethnicity, further separating them from their original source as AUs of the Lorax. This process is known in the fandom as de-Oncelerization. This happened en masse, with the town name changing from Thneedville to Thornville to reflect this. Mods of de-Oncerized blogs have requested not to have their characters referred to as Oncelers, as they are legitimately separate characters at this point, regardless of origin. While the three AUs previously discussed existed in a single timeline, they do not exist in the same timeline as demonsterization, as they are specific to Oncelers. Camp D-Hawken is the demonsterized summer camp and is considered a true alternate universe rather than a prior point in time, meaning that despite the connections, it is not a canon backstory for more Stormville High characters. Some other good videos on the topic are Tumblr's Strangest Obsession, A History of the Onceler Fandom by Sarah Z, and the Lorax The Onceler Fandom is Made of Nightmares by Kiona is Dead.